Iran executed more than twice as many people in 2025 as it did in 2024, pushing global executions to a 44-year high. This is not just a grim statistic, it is a warning sign. When a state accelerates executions on this scale, it is usually sending a message: fear us, obey us, or pay with your life. The recent surge in executions in Iran has raised significant alarm both domestically and internationally. Reports indicate that the number of executions has reached levels not seen in years, highlighting a drastic shift in the country's approach to law and order. This increase is particularly alarming given the backdrop of ongoing protests and civil unrest, where dissent against the government has been met with increasingly harsh reprisals. The Iranian regime appears to be doubling down on its hardline stance, likely viewing these executions as a necessary tool to maintain control amidst growing discontent among the populace. Historically, Iran has faced criticism for its human rights practices, but the current wave of executions places this issue squarely at the forefront of international discourse. Human rights organizations have condemned these actions, asserting that they violate fundamental principles of justice and human dignity, calling for global accountability. Countries around the world, particularly those with vested interests in the region, are now faced with a difficult dilemma, balancing their strategic partnerships with the imperative of addressing human rights abuses. The implications of these executions extend beyond immediate deterrence. While the Iranian government may temporarily stifle dissent through fear, this strategy risks breeding deeper resentment and instability among the populace. The long-term consequences could manifest as increased unrest and radicalization, potentially destabilizing the region further. Looking ahead, the critical question remains whether this spike in executions represents a temporary measure or signals a new grim era in Iranian governance. As international actors respond, the future of Iran's political landscape hangs in the balance. The coming months will be pivotal in determining whether diplomatic efforts can effectively address this troubling trend, or if Iran's approach will harden, leading to an even more volatile situation. Iran has a long and troubling history of using capital punishment more aggressively than most countries. The nation has consistently maintained one of the world's highest execution rates, with thousands of individuals put to death over the past few decades. Historically, periods of political pressure and social dissent have often coincided with harsher state repression and increased executions. The Iranian judicial system is frequently criticized for its lack of transparency and independent safeguards, raising significant concerns regarding the fairness of trials and the treatment of defendants. Recent reports indicate a sharp increase in executions, particularly targeting those accused of drug offenses and political dissent, reflecting a broader trend of tightening control and shrinking tolerance for dissent within Iranian society. This climate of repression is not merely a recent phenomenon. It can be traced back to years of political turbulence, economic hardship, and a government reliant on extreme measures to quash dissent. As the regime grapples with rising dissatisfaction among the populace, particularly among youth and activists, the use of fear as a governance tool has become increasingly pronounced. The surge in executions serves as a stark warning to those who might challenge the status quo, illustrating the regime's determination to maintain its grip on power. The impact of these executions extends beyond the immediate loss of life. They foster an atmosphere of fear and silence among citizens, discouraging any form of protest or opposition. As international scrutiny intensifies, it becomes clear that the Iranian government is likely to double down on its repressive tactics. Moving forward, the trajectory suggests that without significant internal or external pressure, Iran may continue to prioritize state security over human rights, perpetuating a cycle of violence and repression that stifles dissent for the foreseeable future. The recent surge in executions in Iran has raised immediate and serious concerns about the state of human rights in the country. Reports indicate a significant uptick in capital punishment, with many executions reportedly carried out in secret and without proper legal representation. Issues such as due process, the fairness of trials, and the coercion of confessions are now at the forefront of discussions among human rights advocates. The treatment of political prisoners, who often face harsh sentences for expressing dissenting views, and the disproportionate punishment of vulnerable groups, such as ethnic minorities and women, are alarming trends that cannot be overlooked. The political context surrounding this increase in executions is equally troubling. Analysts suggest that this unprecedented rise signals deep-seated fears within the Iranian regime regarding internal unrest and widespread protests. The consolidation of hardline elements within the government appears to be a strategic move to project strength during a time of instability and uncertainty. The regime may be attempting to suppress dissent through fear, reinforcing a narrative that resistance will be met with severe consequences. Internationally, Iran's actions carry significant repercussions. The increase in human rights abuses complicates the nation's diplomatic relations and shapes the discourse surrounding sanctions. Western governments and international bodies are likely to respond with heightened scrutiny and potential punitive measures, which could further isolate Iran on the global stage. The executions serve as a stark reminder of the regime's oppressive tactics, which could inflame tensions with countries advocating for human rights and democracy. Looking ahead, the trajectory of human rights in Iran remains uncertain. While the regime may believe that such brutal tactics will quell dissent, history shows that oppression often breeds resistance. The international community's response will be critical in shaping the future landscape of human rights in Iran. As external pressures mount, it remains to be seen whether the Iranian government will double down on its repressive measures or consider reform in response to both domestic and international outcry. The coming months will be pivotal in determining the balance of power between the regime and the Iranian populace seeking justice and freedom. In a striking and alarming report, Iran executed more than twice as many individuals in 2025 compared to 2024. This surge brought the global death penalty count to a staggering 44-year high. In total, Iran carried out over 700 executions in 2025, a sharp increase from about 300 the previous year. This increase in executions is a clear indicator of a systemic escalation within the Iranian government, which appears to be increasingly reliant on capital punishment as a means of enforcing control and deterring dissent. The Iranian regime has long been criticized for its human rights abuses, and this latest spike in executions further underscores a troubling trend. In a year when many countries have moved away from capital punishment, Iran has taken a drastic step in the opposite direction. The scale of these executions suggests that the Iranian regime is not only punishing crimes, but is also employing the death penalty as part of a broader strategy to maintain state control. Analysts argue that the increase in executions may be a response to internal unrest, as the government seeks to quash any potential opposition. The message is clear. The government is prepared to use the harshest penalties to instill fear and obedience among the populace. The impact of this escalation is profound, both domestically and internationally. Human rights organizations have condemned these actions, calling for accountability and urging the international community to intervene. The executions not only affect the families of those killed, but also create a climate of fear that stifles free expression and dissent. This chilling atmosphere has led to widespread concern among activists and ordinary citizens alike, who fear for their safety and freedom. Furthermore, these actions could lead to increased isolation for Iran on the global stage, as countries may reconsider their diplomatic and economic ties in response to such blatant human rights violations. Looking ahead, it remains uncertain whether the Iranian government will continue this trajectory of escalating violence or if there will be a shift towards more moderate policies. The international community must remain vigilant and responsive, as the consequences of these actions will resonate far beyond Iran's borders. Continued scrutiny and pressure may be vital in influencing the regime's future decisions regarding human rights and governance. What do you think? Is this spike in executions a temporary peak or a sign of the new normal in Iran? Share your predictions in the comments and subscribe for daily deep dives into pressing global issues.